Hello, welcome to the BTech course of Guru Nanak Institute of Technology in the first year. I'm Dr. Indrajit Bose and I shall be your course instructor for this session. This paper is entitled English with a paper code of HU101. In the course of this paper, we shall be taking a look at the various forms, genres, and modes of communication that prevail in the world with various examples from a globalized world context. This is module 4 of the paper and is entitled Professional Writing. In the course of this discussions of this paper, we have been taking a look at the various types and forms of business writing and the purposes for which they are written. We have looked at business correspondence, we have looked at emails and meeting documentations. Today, we are going to look at another very important business writing document, that is the writing of reports. Now, very often we are required to write reports in the business world. For example, a product has not been performing well in the market. So what is the reason for its poor performance? So there is a progress check on that product. So that entails the writing of a report. Or there is going to be some inquiry into an incident that took place in the past in the office. So maybe there was some damage to office property. So there's a report based on that. There are various kinds of reports, audit reports, progress reports. So we write them all the time. Now, what actually goes into the writing of reports? Is it easy or hard to write them? We might think that the writing down a longish report is quite a difficult exercise. But is it really so? Let us find out and explore for ourselves and see whether the process of writing the report can be made easy as well as interesting. So let us see. Now we are going to look at the nature and significance of reports first. Then we shall look at some types of reports and the different formats which are there. And then we shall look at certain writing strategies for the report and take a sample report as an example. Okay. So to begin with, first things first, what exactly is a report? So we can say very simply that a report is a statement or it is a compilation of facts about some event or incident or maybe some problem. For example, a report on child diabetes. This is a sample news report. So this report would be basically informative and it would give us information about facts like who are the children affected. So children in what age groups and how is the disease being dealt with? How are these affected children being treated? So are there proper medicines? So what sort of medical care is available? So all these and more would be included in the report on child diabetes. And it can be written in a very informative and interesting way so that it will hook the attention of the readers. After all, we read the newspaper a lot, don't we? Or we look up news reports and news items which are there on the internet all the time. So there is a human desire or propensity for news, to get news all the time. So we are very thirsty for news. We hunger for different kinds of news. So that is something which is satisfied by news reports. Now, we have said, to go back to what I was saying about the nature of reports, they are basically statements or collections or compilations of facts. Now, the facts, however, are not just presented anyhow in a ramshackle order or just dumped in anyhow. These facts are analyzed they are classified in a certain way. Also, sometimes and very often, reports contain in-depth studies of the news items or incidents which they are about, and they often help us in the decision making process. Reports tell us what to do, they tell us what steps to take, and how to deal with situations and crises. For example, there is an outbreak of malaria in a certain locality. So the municipal corporation is puzzled about how to deal with the situation. So they do a full scale investigation as to why this outbreak has taken place in this particular area. So once they get the report on that, or once they sit down with the findings of the report, they are better able to take decisions of how to curb the disease in that particular area. So this is how reports play a very vital role in the decision making process. So reports, apart from satisfying our basic urge for news and information, which they do satisfy, they also give us very valuable feedback on various issues and problems and help us in taking decisions about them. That's why they are so valuable and important. Now, what is the objective of the report? That is basic in understanding the nature and scope of the reports. Now, different kinds of reports might have different objectives. For example, the annual growth report of a company basically has the objective of talking about the financial growth of that company. It does not cover as its scope anything more than that. For example, if I want to find out something about the employees of that company, I'm not likely to find a great deal from the annual growth report of the company. I might find only those facts which are relevant over there relating to the employees, but other things I will not find over there. So it is report specific. Again, it's basically a very accurate study of facts, and it is a scientific study of the facts, certainly. It's very, very informative, and it is research based. That is, whatever facts or information is gleaned or which is contained in the report is gleaned from a process of systematic inquiry. There might be different sources. We shall soon be looking at the sources which are there in the report or which go into the making of a report. So we can say that there is definitely a good deal of research or inquiry which goes into the investigation from whose findings the report is ultimately compiled. Also, it's not just an inquiry that is done, but there is a certain research methodology, or there is a methodology for the analysis of the facts, for evaluating the facts which is used. So as the writer of the report, we have to very consciously use a certain methodology. So we can say that reports are very scientific studies. The facts are the basis for the reports. Reports are based on facts. They are not based on fiction or imagination or anything else. They are entirely based on hard evidence. And this evidence is collected through a process of scientific inquiry. And there is an informing methodology which is there for analyzing the data that is collected for the report. So it's very much a scientific study. And a report is very wide-ranging, far-ranging, even of global importance in its implications. So it can be very far-ranging in its implications. For example, a demographic report of the population growth of a country can have far-ranging implications in the economic development of that country and in comparing the demographic statistics of that country with other countries of the world. So like this. Now, certain features of the report we would like to outline first. Reports are clear and precise statements of facts. So they're very precise. So they are focused on the facts and on the facts alone. So they do not contain lot of other elaborations about the facts, except for as much as is required by way of explanation. They are also based on close observation or detailing. For example, if I have done a scientific study of, let us say, it's a study of migratory birds in a certain national park. So whatever migratory birds I have found, say over a 3-month span, so I have collected the diaries or accounts and the photographic evidence of this particular period. So over this 3 months period, this is all that I have collected. So I put it together, and that is my evidence. So all that detailing, uh, observation, observation, record, and compilation. So all this is part of the report. A very slow and painstaking process of collection, basically. Also, the accuracy of the facts has to be vouched for. We cannot collect facts, or we will not collect facts which are untrue or which are hypothetical, for example. Also, the facts and observations in the report have to be relevant. They have to be timely. So if it is something very dated, or if it is no longer of great relevance in the particular context, so we will not include it in the report. Also, the facts that are collected have to be presented in a reader-friendly way, because reports are meant to be read. They are not just meant to be, collections which are nicely bound and stacked away in the shelves of libraries and archives. They are meant to be consulted. They are meant to be frequently looked at. So they have to be organized well. The information that is contained in the report should be easily graspable and understandable. So it should be presented in a clear and straightforward format, and a layout which is easy and simple to grasp. Also, as far as the language of the report is concerned, obviously some professional terms or some jargon may need to be used in the report. Obviously, using such jargon would be part of the professionalism, which is a hallmark of the report. But as far as is practicable, reports should be written in clear and understandable language. No unnecessary use of business or financial or any other kind of jargon would be advisable. So avoid the unnecessary use of jargon of any kind in writing the report. Keep the language simple and straightforward as far as possible. And of course, using of the suitable format or the template, this is all important as far as the report is concerned, because the format is the guiding thing in the report. So we have to follow the format and arrange all the data or information and all the analysis that we have in the report in the prescribed format, so that it is accurate and it goes in as a scientific study of the subject. So these are, in short, a few features of the report. Now, we will have a brief discussion of different types of report before we go into the writing of the report as such. Now, as I have already mentioned, there are reports of many different kinds. For example, there are progress reports. Now, as the name suggests, they give us an estimation of the project or the nature of the work that is already done or accomplished on something. So they give us a measure of the progress that has been achieved. So it gives us a summary of the stages in which the work has been done, and the different phases, and how much progress has been achieved in these different phases. For example, the construction of a sports stadium. So the first phase was in the year 2017. So from January to December, or January to September. So how much work was done? Next phase, 2018 till June. So how much work was done? Third phase up to 2019. So how much work was done? So all the work in the different phases, the rate of progress and the success rate achieved. So these are the issues on which success was achieved. Those are some other issues in which success was not achieved. So if it was not achieved, why? Again, there can be questions that we raised over there so that we can plan out the remaining work that needs to be done in the project accordingly. So a progress report is a very essential part of a progress check that we have to periodically take for different kinds of uh, projects, uh, different kinds of work that need to be done, and so on. Another type of report that we can talk about is a feasibility report, or it's a feasibility study. So it's a survey basically to check the advisability of launching of a new product or service or outlet. For example, if you're planning to open a set of new outlets, let us say that you manufacture a soft drink and your soft drink is selling extremely well in Kolkata and its suburbs. Now you plan to open two new outlets in the North 24 Parganas and one outlet in Siliguri in North Bengal. Now, is it really advisable to open it over there? So what would be the costs involved? What would be the merits and demerits of the site? Okay, how much of expertise would you need to construct that outlet? What sort of manpower or labor would be required? What sort of labor or manpower would be required to man that outlet? Do you have existing manpower or do you need something more? So how much time would be needed before that outlet starts functioning? And would it be profitable ultimately or not? So you can see that a feasibility study would be extremely useful as far as the launching of products and services is concerned. So it is often that this kind of report is written or prepared in the business world. Again, another type of report which is very common and which is very important also is the project report. So it reviews basically the work that is done on a given project. And this work is necessarily time bound. Now, this project might be an annual project, or it can be 2 or 3 years or 4 years. So how much work is done in the span of that time? So it will give us an estimation of that. What sort of resources have been allocated in this project? And obviously the success rate and failures. So how much have we achieved in this project? And if we have achieved something well, yes, of course, those are the achievements and overall achievements. So what have we done? So let's say we are constructing this sports stadium. So how much have we achieved in that project in the last 2 years? So maybe it's a 4-year project. So in 2 years, what have we done and how much remains to be done in the remaining time? So it will give us an estimation of that. Now, you know that in the business world, in the corporate world nowadays, there are different kinds of projects, big and small, which are ongoing all the time. So project reports are always coming in and they help us to keep a check on what work is being done, whether the progress rate is satisfactory or not, whether we need to accelerate our work speed or whether we need to troubleshoot somewhere. All these things are sort of pointed out to us by the report. So they give us a timely reminder of work that needs to be done, and they also summarize the work that already has been done and give us some satisfaction about what we have already achieved. So they play a very vital role. Now, before we talk about the writing of the report, let us take a brief look at the format of the report. Now, obviously, as I have said, each report will follow a specific format. Certain common features of especially long length reports are there's a separate title page, there's an introduction, terms of reference, or that means the particular context in which the report is being written and who has ordered the writing of the report. Now, please do keep in mind that there is always somebody who orders the report or who orders the investigation or inquiry that goes into the making of the report. And there is a writer of the report. And this is the person who has undertaken the inquiry, or the persons, if there are more than one, those who have undertaken the inquiry that goes into the making of the report. And uh, who these people are will be outlined in the terms of reference. Also, the methods or the procedures that we have followed in collecting the evidence for the report, the findings, also the discussion together with the analysis, the graphs, charts, and other data, and also the recommendations or suggestions that can be made on the basis of the findings. All these things are contained in a long report. So you can understand that a long report, unlike a short one, like a newspaper report, so most of the short reports are like the newspaper reports, which can be pretty short, or else a one-page letter report. But there are also long reports, and they are filled with this kind of information and analysis. And you can understand that we have to understand the format properly before we can write that kind of a report. So I'm going to take examples of some of these long reports, which are much more critical, and they are also very crucial as far as writing or business writing is concerned. Now, how do you plan the writing of the report? Let's go into the writing aspect of the report now. Now, have you planned out your work? What is your objective in writing the report? Have you done your research? Okay, first and foremost, you choose the objective. Okay, so let us say that my objective is to find out about the migratory birds which are visiting this national park in the months of winter. So I'm going to collect the data relevant for that report. So if that is my objective, so accordingly I have to collect my data and do the research. So obviously I will collect data, and there are different ways of this data collection, like questionnaires. A questionnaire is a sheet in which there are different questions, sometimes with options also given. So there can be MCQ type questions, and you tick the correct options, and you can have uh, uh, an answer sheet of that questionnaire. So once I collect all the questionnaires together, I can make a summary of the answers. I can make an average of that, and that will give me some trends, and that will give me some findings. Also, there can be field trips like actual visits. So if I'm going to find out the species of migratory birds which have visited this bird sanctuary, so I will have to actually visit that sanctuary and go into it and see which birds are there. I will have to take photographs. Also, observation. Yes, this is a very important tool. So I have to observe, I have to take notes. Also, I have to consult other books or research reports. So findings also depend on these kinds of inquiries, not just inquiries that we make by direct observation, but also study of others' observations or comparative analysis and so on. So once I have collected all this data and have prepared my data sheets and I have analyzed that data, so I will do the analysis part, I will collect the findings, and then I will make a rough draft of the report. So the rough draft obviously will follow the format which we have already talked about. That is, I will make a title page, I will put in a table of contents, I will put in an introduction, I will put in the main body of discussion, then I will put conclusions, recommendations, and so on. So I will prepare the draft of the material by inserting all the information that I have collected in this particular format. Now, a report may contain different kinds of graphs, charts, or diagrams. So there can be bar charts, there can be pie charts, or different other kinds of diagrams. So I might have all this other information contained in graphs, charts, or various kinds of diagrams, maps, and so on. So I will put this information in a proper sequence and proper order. And obviously the information is not self-explanatory. So if I contain if I put the chart or diagram, then I will have to explain. I will have to give a key for the diagram, and I will have to explain why I included that, and also give the parameters for that diagram. So all sorts of statistical data, information which are collected together, which are part of the findings of the research, will go into the main body of the report. And they have to be suitably explained with explanation in the body of the report, or giving a suitable subtitle, or numbering and so on, or explanatory notes in the margin or marginal notes. So they have to be given. Now, a report writing involves much revision work and a lot of rewriting as well. So it's not just enough that I have done the collection of the data, or I have done a scientific study of the data, but I need also to revise the data and to revise my rough draft. I have said that first I prepare a rough draft after I have done a scientific study of the data and I have prepared my data sheets. So I write it down in the format of the report. Now that is the first draft, but possibly there might be improvements or there might be corrections that I need to make. So I will edit this draft for factual details. So I will check whether the more factual details can be incorporated or not. I will see whether anything has been left out and which can be included. I will see whether the accuracy of all the details have been preserved or not. I will also check the sources. So there are lots of sources which are there in a report. So I will have to check and see whether I have given the correct sources or not. Also, I will have to check the language of the report finally. So I will have to see whether the grammar, spelling, the punctuation are all right or not. And obviously, I will have to follow the format carefully. So some rewriting will be involved after that. So once I have checked the first draft and made the necessary corrections, I might have to make a second draft or revise the first draft to make a proper, well edited report. So once I have done that, so it should be appropriate. And if it is still not, a report might go through even a second draft and a third draft to emerge finally as a successfully made report. So be prepared for writing, revision, and rewriting when you are writing a report. So it is not something which can be done spontaneously. It needs a lot of careful checking and also rechecking and rewriting. So a lot of writing is involved over here, and it cannot be avoided in any way. Now we shall begin by looking at this writing process by looking at the sample report. Now let me explain. This is based on a case study. Now in a particular rural area or semi-urban area called Sitapur, there is a river running by, obviously, and the villagers living in that area have been complaining to the local representative of the Pollution Control Board that the river waters are getting polluted, and this pollution is stemming from a recently erected uh, soft drinks manufacturing plant in the area, which is emptying its chemical effluents and waste into the waters of the river. Now, the villagers use the river water for their own bathing, cleaning, or other purposes, washing, and other purposes. They also wash their cattle in the waters of the river, and I think the cattle also drink from the waters of the river. So, the villagers have been complaining that they are suffering from various skin diseases, and the cattle are also suffering from various diseases as a result of the pollution levels in the water. So this is a very serious issue, and the zonal officer of the Pollution Control Board has sent a representative to this area to conduct an inquiry into this issue and to prepare a report based on the findings. So this report is in the nature of an investigative report. So it's based on an investigation which is undertaken in this particular area by the representative of the Pollution Control Board to find out whether the chemicals released by this soft drinks manufacturing plant is really responsible for the pollution or not. So you will look at the title page now. I've got a sample of the title page on this slide. So you can see that the title of the report is a report on the alleged pollution of river water by Popular Drinks Limited. Now, Popular Drinks Limited is the name of the company or organization which is responsible for this pollution, according to the villagers. And alleged pollution because it has not been proved, so it is there as alleged pollution in the title. Pollution of river water by Popular Drinks Limited. So it is an investigation into this alleged pollution by this company or manufacturer of soft drinks called Popular Drinks Limited. Now, notice that the next thing below the title and the other details, they follow a inverse pyramidal shape. Now, notice that immediately below the title comes the name of the commissioning authority of the report together with the designation. Now, the commissioning authority is the person who has ordered the inquiry or ordered the report. So this is the zonal officer of the Pollution Control Board, and his name is given over here, A.R. Mehta. So the name first and then the designation. So this is the commissioning authority. Also, this is the person to whom the report will be ultimately submitted. So the letter of transmittal, which is going to follow after this title page, is going to be addressed to this person, okay, who will be the reader of the report. Then by giving the name of the author of the report, H.R. Roy is the name of the author, and he is the investigation officer sent by the Pollution Control Board to investigate this particular incident or this problem. And then the date is given below that. There can be other alphanumeric references or other references given in the corners or the top right corner or left-hand corner or somewhere else. So basically, this is the information contained in the title page. First, the full title of the report, then the commissioning authority's name and designation, then the author of the report, his or her name and designation, and then the date. So this much information is contained in the title page. Then what follows after that is the letter of transmittal. The letter of transmittal is the cover letter which encloses the report. So we can say that it's the formal letter which is written by the writer of the report addressed to the commissioning authority of the report once that report is submitted. Okay, so we have to include it as it's a kind of formal submission procedure. So you will notice that it is addressed to the officer of the Pollution Control Board, who is also the commissioning authority, A.R. Mehta, and the subject is submission of final report on pollution of river water by Popular Drinks Limited. And then just a few lines are written to say that the inquiry which had been ordered by the commissioning authority has been completed and the report is being submitted as a result of this process. Dear sir, this is to inform you that the inquiry you had ordered on the basis of the complaint of the people of Sitapur has been completed and the findings are being submitted in this report. Kindly go through the report. So it's very short and it's very simple. Basically, it says nothing more than this, that the inquiry or investigation which has been ordered is completed and the report is being enclosed. So it is signed by the writer of the report, who is the investigation officer, H.R. Roy, once again. So this is the letter of transmittal. Then comes the opening of the report, where we have the preface and acknowledgements first. So In the preface, we have the reason for the writing of the report. So I'm reading out. There were numerous complaints made about the alleged pollution of river water at Sitapur due to the harmful effluents released by Popular Drinks Limited in 2017-18. So there's been a past time period in which a lot of complaints have come in. But this inquiry was the first to make a proper scientific study of the subject with collection and analysis of empirical data. Hence, this report is the first scientific report on the subject. Okay. So there have been numerous complaints regarding the issue of river pollution and the question of allegation against this company because it is releasing chemical effluents. But there has been hitherto no scientific study on the subject till this report. So this report is the first scientific study on this particular subject. Okay, so we can understand that the report has been written. The reason behind it is to undertake a scientific study to prove whether really there is a case for pollution as a result of industrial pollution over here or not. Then the acknowledgement section follows after this, in which the writer of the report expresses his or her thanks to various people, organizations, institutions who have helped in collecting the evidence and data for the report. So in preparing this report, the author would like to gratefully acknowledge the help received from T.J. Rahman, General Manager of Popular Drinks, the officers and staff of the company, the villagers of Sitapur, and others who assisted in the investigation. So these are all the people who have helped. The officers and staff of the company, then the villagers, and also other people in the area have helped in the investigation. So they are all thanked by the writer of this report. Okay, then we have, of course, the content section where we can see that all the different parts are arranged in sequential order with the relevant page numbers. Letter of transmittal, preface, acknowledgements, and then the summary, of course. The summary gives us the brief gist of the report. And this follows immediately after this section. And the summary is extremely important because, you see, the authorities to whom reports are submitted are extremely busy people, and they do not often have the time, or they frequently do not have the time to go through the entire report or look at all the findings in the report or read everything that is given by way of description in the report. So they may take a look at the summary. That is one of the things they will look at. So the summary contains the entire findings of the report in brief. So it gives us a gist of the problem, the statement of the problem, the investigation, the findings, and the conclusions. So everything, and the recommendations also if they are there. So everything that is there in the report is contained in brief in the summary. So that is a section which is very important. The report proper really begins with the summary. After that, we have the introduction, then the description of the main body of the report, then the conclusions, recommendations, and glossary, which close it. Our glossary is a list of alphabetical terms with their explanations, which will be helpful in finding out what are the meanings of words if there are words whose meanings we don't know, or if there are professional terms or jargon which we are not familiar with. Okay, the introduction first. Now, there are various things that we contain in the introduction. So there are some excerpts from an introduction over here, because an introduction cannot really be so short. It is several pages long, as a matter of fact. So various things. First of all, you will notice that it gives us the background to the problem. There were numerous complaints made over 2 years by the people that the waters of the Ganga were being polluted due to the effluents released by Popular Drinks. So this is causing various diseases and other things. So that is the backdrop. Okay, the background is sketched in. Then the terms of reference. As I have already said, the terms of reference is basically the details of the inquiry or investigation which has been ordered, who is writing it, and so on. So the zonal officer of the Pollution Control Board, A.R. Mehta, ordered the inquiry, and he set up a one-man committee of this person, H.R. Roy, and directed him to submit the report within 3 months. And the present report has been written based on the inquiry or study undertaken by this person, this investigative officer, HRO. Then, of course, something about the scope of the report. This report aims at a full-length investigation into the alleged case of pollution through the study of scientific samples of river water and comparative chemical analysis of the effluents released by the factory. So, uh, study of the samples, a scientific study. This is the scope of this particular report, and no more than that, really. Also, the sources which are used in collecting data, that is also mentioned in the introduction. The following sources have been used in compiling the report: interviews, questionnaires, collection and analysis of chemical samples, and so on. So in the introduction, it's quite varied, really. And we include various things in the introduction. As we sketch in the background, we talk about the terms of reference, we give the details, we talk about the scope of the report, we specify the sources. So all these things, together with something about the findings of the report also. So all these things have to be given in the introduction. So it is a fairly well balanced piece of writing. Then comes the main part, or the description or the discussion section of the report. So here the various things are summarized in the subheadings. First, the inquiries and interviews. The study commenced with an inquiry into the allegations made by the villagers. Around 200 people living in the area were contacted and systematically interviewed. The interviews were all recorded and the recordings transcribed. The people all spoke of skin lesions and diseases like eczema and psoriasis. Photographic evidence was also collected. Interviews were also conducted at the company officials who spoke about a proper waste disposal system. So this is what was done. Then there was the plant inspection also. A proper study of the factory premises and the waste disposal system was conducted between 25th April and 3rd May. The entire system of treating chemical wastes and effluents was inspected. Samples of chemical water obtained and compared with samples of river water. So all these things were done. Then data analysis. Following results of the analysis of chemical data were obtained. The traces of ammonia, sulfur, oxalates, silicates, all given by percentage, compared with what is there in the river water, compared with what is there in the factory waste or effluents. So on the basis of the study, the findings reached were that the plant has not released untreated chemical waste in the river water, and also the toxic chemicals in the river water were far in excess of anything contained in the chemical waste. So all the tables and the statistical data will be given together with the explanation of such data. Then, after the findings are given, there comes the conclusions and recommendations which can be given in bulletin points. The following conclusions were reached on the basis of the study. There was no scientific evidence to support the case for pollution of the river water by industrial waste. The chemical effluents are not directly released into the river water. The waste disposal system of the plant is in place and fairly effective. All wastes are chemically treated. The level of toxic chemicals in the water is in excess of any contained in the wastes. So the report makes the following recommendations. The sewage system of the area and the drainage release into the river water be investigated. Popular Drinks Limited be commended for its scientific and efficient waste management. So the report is finally refuting all the allegations made by the villagers of Sitapur that the industrial waste released by this company, Popular Drinks Limited, is really responsible for the pollution of the river water. It is not actually responsible. So this is what the scientific study undertaken in the inquiry and the report has revealed to us. The report is recommending other kinds of studies like of the sewage system to pinpoint the reason for the pollution in the river water. So we can say finally that the selection of the data has to be very carefully done, and also to preserve the objectivity of the entire record, that also has to be very carefully done, and this is the responsibility especially of the writer of the report. The writer has to be very, very fair and impartial. So if you find that you have a certain idea in your mind about what might have happened, and you collect the evidence which points in a different direction, then you cannot twist the evidence around to fit your preconceived ideas. You have to fit your ideas to the evidence that you find. So it's that much fair and objective that you have to be as a writer of the report. Also, the freedom of the writer of a report is relatively limited because the writer has to very carefully follow the format that is prescribed or given. So not only a very assured grasp of data handling and analysis, also the power to write concisely, to summarize the findings effectively, these are all the qualities that the writer of the report must have. And the ability to write clear and concise reports which contain crisp summaries of information that has been gathered, this is very, very valuable in the business world. So we have shed light in this process of writing a report today in the course of this lecture. So this brings us to the end of this particular lecture. Thank you.